Mr. President, thank you very much for doing this, and I must thank you on behalf of the Fox News Channel for helping out Greg Palcott and Mr. Weig, who got roughed up in Cairo. And it was you, it was Robert Gibbs, the State Department, who really saved them, and we all thank you very much.
Well, listen, those guys showed enormous courage, as so many journalists do around the world. And so not only was it important for us to make sure they were safe for them and their families, but to uphold the basic principle of free speech and freedom of the press. That's a universal value we care about, and I know Fox cares about. So I'm just glad these guys are
those guys could have died, and I just want everybody to know that you know, the State Department really saved them. All right, Mubarak, is he going to leave soon?
Well, you know, he knows what he's going to do. But here's what we know, is that Egypt is not going to go back to what it was. The Egyptian people want freedom. They want free and fair elections. They want a representative government. They want a responsive government. And so what we've said is, you have to start a transition now. Mubarak's already decided he's not running for re-election again. His term is up this year. And what we've said is, let's make sure that you get all the groups together in Egypt, let the Egyptian people make a determination. What's the process for an orderly transition, but one that is a meaningful transition and that leads to a government that...
So you don't know when he's going to leave?
Well, you know, ultimately, the United States can't absolutely dictate what happens. But what we can do, Bill, is we can say that the time is now for you to start making a change in that country.
He's already done that, but the longer he stays in, the more people are going to die. And the other problem is Mubarak knows a lot of bad things about the United States. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Well, let me say this. The United States and Egypt have been a partner for a long time.
Right. He's done some bad things.
He has been a good partner when it comes to the peace with Israel. There have been counterterrorism efforts that he's been very supportive of, but what we've also consistently said to him, both publicly and privately, is that trying to suppress your own people is something that is not sustainable. And part of the message that I think we're seeing all around the world is, when you resort to suppression, when you resort to violence, that does not work.
Yeah, but it worked for 30 years, so he had his run. But he knows a lot of bad things about us, rendition and all of that, and I'm sure you know that. So I'm just worried that he might go off the reservation. The Muslim Brotherhood, great concern to a lot of people. They a threat to the USA?
I think that the Muslim Brotherhood is one faction in Egypt. They don't have majority support in Egypt. But they are well organized, and there are strains of their ideology that are anti-U.S. There's no doubt about it. But here's the thing that we have to understand. There are a whole bunch of secular folks in Egypt. There are a whole bunch of educators and civil society in Egypt that wants to come to the fore as well. And so it's important for us not to say that our only two options are either the Muslim Brotherhood or a suppressed
But you don't want the Muslim
Egyptian
Brotherhood.
people. What I want is a representative government in Egypt. And I have confidence that if Egypt moves in an orderly transition process, that we'll have a government in Egypt that we can work with together as a partner.
Those are tough boys, the Muslim Brotherhood. I wouldn't want them anywhere near that government. Federal judge in Florida said new health care law is unconstitutional. Supreme Court may follow in that. It's going to be very close. Are you prepared for that law to go down?
Well, I think the judge in Florida was wrong. Keep in mind that we've had 12 judges that said that just threw this case out. The notion that the health care law was unconstitutional. Well, first it goes to the appellate court. There's district court, then there are appeal courts, and then it goes to the Supreme Court. But here's the key point, Bill. And I said this in the State of the Union. I don't want to spend the next 2 years refighting the battles of the last 2 years.
Yeah, but you're going to have to.
Well, I don't think
the Supreme Court's going to hear this one way or the other.
What the American people have said is, we want cost controls in health care. We want security in health care. What I've said to the Republicans is, if you guys have ideas in terms of improving the health care system, if you have ideas that I can embrace on things like
they're not going to bother with it, though. They're going to wait. They're going to wait till it goes to the court and hope it gets thrown out 5-4. Yeah. My question is, are you prepared if it gets thrown out? What are you going to do?
Here's what I'm not prepared to do. I'm not prepared to go back to a day when the American people, if you've got a pre-existing condition, if you had a heart attack, that you can't get health care.
Here's what the Wall Street Journal said. I want you to react to this quote. Mr. Obama is a determined man of the left. whose goal is to redistribute much larger levels of income across society. He may give tactical ground when he has to, as he did on taxes to avoid a middle-class tax increase, but he will resist to his last day any major changes to Obamacare and the other load-bearing walls of the entitlement state. This is the Wall Street Journal. You know, painting you as a pretty left-wing guy, you're going to draw the line.
The Wall Street Journal will probably paint you as a left-wing guy.
No.
I mean, if you're talking about the Wall Street Journal editorial page,
that's what this is.
You know, that's like quoting the New York Times editorial.
Do you deny their assessment? Do you deny that you're a man who wants to redistribute wealth?
Absolutely.
You deny that?
Absolutely. Bill, I didn't raise taxes once. I lowered taxes over the last 2 years.
But the entitlements that you
lowered
champion,
taxes for the last 2 years.
But the entitlements that you champion do redistribute wealth in the sense that they provide insurance coverage for 40 million people who don't have it.
What is absolutely true is I think in this country, there's no reason why if you get sick, you should go bankrupt. Now, the notion that that's a radical principle, I don't think the majority of people